Peace will rain down from every cloud in the sky. The oceans will part again and again until
All
our
right.
life
Well, first of all,
sees the
hello everyone,
light,
and thank you so much for being
the
here.
light
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
until the
So, I am so
world
deeply honored and grateful to be here to
sees.
honor my beautiful, dear, close friend, Anja. And Anja's just published this book in English. It's a Book of Solace, and it's Love and Light for Dark Days. So I'm very grateful to unite, to sort of dive into, I think, a conversation that will be very unique and very much filled with, I think, the opportunity to sort of go into or lean into some dark space, to have a look around and feel through and come into or out of that into the light. And I know that we're living in profound times. So I feel deeply that this is an incredible opportunity to, I think, take, sit back in your chair wherever you are watching this, take a few deep breaths and get centered, feet on the ground, maybe connect to the earth and your heart and the beautiful natural process of life. And let's just have a discussion with this beautiful gift. All right. So, Anya, how are you, first of all?
I'm good. I'm always good in your presence.
Right. Well, I feel the exact same way. And I feel incredibly, this has been a divine alignment for a very long time to get to this moment with you. So I recognize all that had to happen to get here. So let's just dive into, I think, to begin, let's just talk about, the darkness that we're in right now. So maybe, in 2023, just to set the date, it's March the 16th. I will mention, I found out today it's Anita Morgeni's birthday, my friend. And I think that's auspicious. I also feel that we're living in a time of great change. There's so much going on in the world. Many people are worried about many things. And I think rather than, just sort of bypassing and going to the light, I think sometimes we have to go into the dark to look around. So maybe just let me ask you, I remember when we first met, you were sharing sort of some dark space or some dark story of just what you were kind of going through. And I think, one of the things I relate to is depression. And I say this because I went through a grief depression myself that was probably the most deep pain and suffering that I've ever had myself after my father's suicide. And having just been invited to a suicide for a teenager to speak and hold space for about 100 people, I recognize that people are suffering in that space. So maybe let me just ask you a little bit about the darkness that you've experienced and, what that was like.
Mm. No, I think in general, I have been blessed with a life with so much light. So when the darkness hits, it also hits you maybe extra hard. I don't know, or maybe I was blessed to have the light to lean into. But in my case, the darkness has been depression. And it has been a journey through different, kinds of depressions. So I had a depression when I was very young. I had a depression when I had very small children, or my first child had been born. I went into a deep depression as well. And then I had this depression 12 years ago that became the most transformational time of my life. It came what felt as completely out of the blue. I had not seen it coming. I was actually in a really good place where I had finally decided to dedicate my life to my soul, to the part of me that longed to be closer to God and to be of service. So I was in a really, really good place when this hit me. And it was just this feeling that all life force just left me. And there was just this huge void of emptiness,
right,
and loneliness, and pain without a source. There was no source for my pain. It came out of the blue. Afterwards, when I think about it, I'll feel into it. It really feels like I lost contact with my soul. It feels like that was what happened, that I couldn't feel God. I couldn't feel my own divinity. And the pain actually came from the longing of missing that. But at the time, I didn't recognize it as that. I was just in a very dark place. And I was in that dark place for almost 7 months. And I lost the ability to move. I stopped eating. I basically was staring out the window all day for a very, very long time. But what was really strange to me about this depression was that it was fundamentally different from the ones I had experienced earlier. It was, I didn't have any negative thoughts, which is really absurd thinking about me lying there in a depression, but I didn't have the negative thoughts. I didn't have the self-loathing and the self-hatred that I knew from earlier times. It was just this enormous emptiness. And then at the same time, I had a knowing that sort of was lying underneath it all. There was this knowing that something was going on that needed to happen, that something was going on that would transform me, that I was in some kind of process. And there was a part of me that knew that what would appear on the other side of this darkness would be good, would be somehow better than what I left behind. So I began praying. I prayed every day that I would become gentler, that I would become wiser, and that I would become more loving.
Wow.
Because those were the things that I really longed for. I was not very gentle.
So interesting.
Or,
yeah.
I was the kind of mother who really had a hard time, keeping my temper down. I would yell at my children, and So that was my prayer. And when I emerged from this state eventually, everything had changed.
Yeah. Well, I think just to sort of pause for a moment, just to allow a breath. I think that it's profound to sort of hear your words, and in many ways, your vulnerability and your truth in sharing it. Because as much as I've been, your friend for quite a while, we don't go into that space. So it's very interesting being friends with you. And then, going back into that space again. And I mean, I think when we first met, you were sort of sharing a version of that space a number of years ago in Spain. But, it feels so much more intimate to have you up close this way. And I think it's such a blessing for anyone that's listening to this that might be suffering or might be going through something. And I always remember, life is a long process. So if you live a long life, you're pretty much guaranteed to go through some version of a depression, even statistically. That's sort of been said. And I think in many ways, in the world of today, perhaps even a few times, like you had mentioned. So I think it's important to recognize that if you are in a state of that sort of space, I think you've touched on something so elegantly about prayer, and I think that it's just a glimmer of light that comes in, and it allows you to sort of open up again to something that is coming, perhaps. So I love how you opened that up and shared that. And I think being a mother, I can imagine in 2023 is a huge responsibility. And I believe that, your truth and testimony will remind someone if they're struggling that there is a way forward. So I really just honor you for that. Yeah.
And I really think, speaking of how we all go through these phases of darkness in one way or the other, the way I have come to see it is that every time, the light and the darkness want the same.
Right.
The light wants to lead us back home into the truth of who we are and back home into God, and the darkness wants to lead us back into the truth of who we are and back into God. That is what I believe. So when we encounter these experiences in our life, I believe that it is God's way, it is life's way to say, hey, is there something you have forgotten? I'm just going to shake you a little bit. And maybe some of all these convictions or stories or whatever you are hiding behind will fall off so that you can be reminded of the truth of who you are. Because when you are in a really dark place, when you are grieving, when you are suffering from depression or whatever real hard darkness you can encounter, you are unable to keep up appearances. You are unable to fake it or pretend to be something you are not. You are sent straight back to being just raw and naked. And I believe that every dark time is an invitation into a new beginning.
Yeah, that's exactly. I feel very, very much in line, and I think just the truth of that is so profoundly powerful to really, I think, focus on and remember that we're always being shown what we need to be shown, whether or not we want to or not. It's really not. It's not that sort of process to sort of go through life at times where you think that everything is perfect or copacetic or, the light, so to speak. And I think as spiritual, I'm going to use this just for myself as a spiritual leader. And I feel like you are a spiritual leader as well in this way now. And I say this with humility because I feel like a lot of times people bypass, I think, the darkness. They go right to the light. And I think we need to remember, I think just as communities, as families, as citizens of this wild world, that the darkness cannot really always be bypassed. In fact, it's actually, I remember a spiritual person, a famous author, actually saying something along the way in an interview that, she was always sort of saying, I like to sort of go into the darkness, and rather than just running out of it, just stay there and look around at least. Just have a little look around, see what's there. And it's a great reminder as a spiritual practice, if you are going through something that's dark, you have to go into it sometimes to feel it in order to heal it or to come out of it. So I think it's a great reminder what you're sharing in that way. And I thank you for that.
And I actually also see how the fear is a very common factor in darkness.
It is.
My English just failed me, I think, but
Not
you
at
know
all.
what I mean. And what I have come to see during these past years where fear has been so present. There's been so much fear in all of us. I don't think anyone can say, no, I just went through these years without any kind, any type, any,
right.
hint of fear. And it doesn't matter if it's fear of disease, fear of finances, fear for vaccines, fear for whatever. It can be, anything, the future. What I've come to realize is that fear has a really powerful ability to call in the light, because it's like a child waking up at night, screaming from a nightmare, just wanting to get comforted.
Right.
And the mother, the father wakes up to come and hold that child and comfort that child. And I believe that is potentially what the fear can do. It can awaken that part of us that has the capacity to hold the part of us that is fearful, to hold the part of us that is suffering.
Yes.
So fear is really powerful in that way. If we recognize that and allow ourselves to get in touch with, there is so much love there. There is so much love there. And all these difficult emotions, might it be, fear or any kind of pain, all it is there for is to say to us, to tell us, I need a hug.
Yes.
Please recognize my pain down here and just hug me.
Yes.
That's it. So we need to get in touch with the part of ourselves that has that capacity.
That's so beautiful. And I love the, everyone can relate to that at some level, when you've been, a child and you need that nurturing, whether or not you received it or not, that the longing is to receive it. And that part of you that just, that's such an interesting space for me too, because the longing for me, so after my father's suicide in 2011, what I think is so interesting what happened is I, like you, went into somewhat of a depression and grief, sort of mixed bag there, but it was a depression really. And I don't think I ever really saw it until I was out of it, that's what it was. But it's interesting because I felt like a baby that needed to find my connection to God. And it's sort of like the world completely stopped. I didn't care about, I remember that year there was a tsunami that was very big, and the normal me, the me that I know very well, would have probably responded to that tsunami in some capacity. And I couldn't even do that. And I remember everyone around me saying, oh my goodness, freaking out about that. And I had nothing to give. So for me, it was like that baby that needed God again. And everything that I did is I surrendered to God in prayer, in spiritual practice, in connection, and just I reached for my breath from God. And it's interesting all these years later, what happens when you do that. And when you surrender in your solace or your serenity to whatever comes, you just completely let go to let that light lift you into something that you don't understand you need. And that is a beautiful metaphor that you shared about the baby, and I am going to remember that for the rest of my life. So thank you very much.
And I see it really as there are two major ways or approaches that are needed at different times.
Sure.
There is when you are absolutely lost, like you were when your father died, when you are in that state of just, there's nothing that I can do. I have nothing to give. I have nothing to be for others.
Right.
And I cannot even be anything for myself. That is when you do exactly what you did, lean into God. because
Yes.
that's the only thing you can do. And I would really invite everyone to do that on any day when they are feeling really down. Allow themselves to just curl up under the blankets. Say, okay, God, you got this.
Yep.
I'm just going to surrender into your love and just lie there and just breathe with God or pray or whatever makes you feel connected.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the other state where you have some sort of, you might have worries, you might be going through a difficult time, but you do have the capacity to, sit in meditation or do something active.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are there, you have an invitation to connect with the part in you, to connect with God in you, to connect with your soul, to take that step back and step into your fullness, and to be the one that holds your human. Does it make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Be the one that gives the comfort, the healing, the attention to the parts of you that are struggling, or so there are these two different, modes.
Yep. That's a beautiful way to say that. And the thing that comes to my heart when you're saying that is there was also this other space, on top of what you've just shared too, where I remember, the darkness when you're in that space too. It's really, the day can seem very long. I remember the long days, but one of my favorite parts, which I think is so interesting, how the natural process of life is designed to support us. And I remember going to sleep every night, and I was shown sort of these two portals, like before you go to sleep and when you wake up. But what's very interesting to me too is that I remember getting to my bed, that like each time the day would finish, and I remember my sleep patterns were all mixed up, and I remember I didn't care because it was the only time where I could literally get in those sheets that you just brought into light, and literally leave my life for a little gap. And I remember those sacred moments, and I felt when I slept, it was the one time where I didn't have to think, where I didn't have to do anything. And I understand why that's written into our, the process of life, to sleep wherever you sleep to. There's no wrong way. If you get even just a little bit of sleep, that's enough. And your body knows, life knows what to do to put you in that space again, to recalibrate your whole system. So I really love that you've even brought, like curling up in bed, because that was the comfort of that time for me too. And if you have that going on in your life, just remember that that space is so holy, where you just get to just curl up and love yourself,
or let God love you.
Yeah.
in that space, because I think we really need to allow ourselves to curl up and just be in that space of darkness. The important thing, though, is not to lie there indulging in the pain, but
Yes.
lie there in calling in God.
Yes.
Because it makes such a difference if you are there alone,
Right.
or if you are there with God.
Yeah. Well, I can guarantee you, I was there with God, and it's perfect that you mentioned it too, because I felt like I was in the womb of God. That's actually, I was in the cocoon and the womb of God, because that's all I had, and it was everything actually. So I really feel like when you do that, something happens within your awareness or within you that reminds you of your original light, your original love. And then it starts to sort of slowly, gradually just get brighter. And so with that said, I feel so I have a candle to light. I normally have a candle lit every time, but we were in the darkness, so let's light a candle.
Let's light the candle then.
So this is actually something, I grabbed a new candle for this moment, and I really wanted to.
Oh, sorry.
I wanted to have a candle just in honor of your book. So with this candle, let's just take a moment and just honor the light that you've given to the world in this gift and blessing. And may it be blessed and may it travel far to those that are in darkness. Okay? So I will put this candle back here for us.
Oh, thank you.
You're so welcome. I really wanted to have a perfect moment, and that I didn't plan that. That was a natural moment.
And it actually inspired me to, if it's okay with you,
Of
to read,
course.
to read one of the poems from the book, because it is just about that.
Yes.
So if that's okay,
Yes, please do.
I will read. And I will invite you to just, listen with your heart. So you are welcome to close your eyes or whatever while I read. Lost in the darkness of shadows and gloom, drowning in the heartbreaking pains of my doom, trying to scream out but choke from the fear, alone in an abyss where no one comes near, desperately calling your name in despair, kicking and struggling to come up for air, reaching my arms toward heaven in plea. Please, God, oh please, come and set my soul free. As I surrendered, exhausted from fight, into my darkness came glimpses of light. Gently they grew as my fears seemed to ease, soothing my body and mind like a breeze. Held in the arms of your true love's embrace, finally knowing the truth of your grace, I could rise up from the ashes of old, finding inside me your treasure of gold.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. That was such a perfect, I think, just into the light moment. So I felt every word that you said so beautifully. Thank you so much for sharing that start. So I think just to,
It seemed to fit the moment.
yes, it definitely did, and perfectly and poetically. Um, I think just what I wanted to read is the back of your book, and I'll read this, I think, first. Is just, I am here to remind you that within your heart is a place of sanctuary, a space of solace and hope, dedicated to reminding you of the eternal light you carry within. And I think what I love about the back of this book is the simplicity of that statement, because that's what you do. And I think that in a way, it's sort of, God's miracle for me is that, the alignments that can happen when you do what you say here. And it's sort of what we've experienced together. It's how we've met in many ways. And, it's interesting when you do this practice of surrendering to your own love from within yourself and being of service in some capacity to yourself and to others in some capacity, what happens is what you put in and what you put out is also seeking you. And I think, when you think about the fact that there's 8 billion people and somehow our hearts, the power of God, and the divinity of pure love and creation energy aligned us is pretty phenomenal. So you living in Denmark, me from Canada / Bermuda, somehow in that tapestry of life we've met. And I think what I felt called to do is, if you would be so gracious to start off with, I think just, I'd love you to read 2 parts at the beginning of your book, is the first page. So I just think that if you say this out loud, it's so powerful and yet so potently simple.
The first page.
Yes.
So this is the introduction or the invitation into the book. My beloved friend, thank you for picking up this book in your time of need. It is a true honor for me to take your hand and accompany you into the solace of unconditional love. I am here to remind you that you are never alone. Even on the darkest of days, when the pain of feeling lost and abandoned drags you into a state of hopelessness, and it feels like no one will ever be able to really understand the suffering you are going through, you are not alone. In every step, you are helped. In every breath, you are loved. I am here to remind you that even the hours of despair hold a spark of light, a seed settling into the dust from where it will begin its transformational journey into life and beauty.
That's fantastic. I had to close my eyes. I felt like I was being nourished by the beautiful mothering that you are capable of giving. And you do every time that I've been blessed to be in your presence in an audience, as well as you give so much. I think just so much in the way that you really just serve, quite frankly, humanity, for lack of a better way to say that. So what I wanted to do also is ask you, ultimately, I wrote a couple of questions down to just sort of ask you, I think the meaning of life. I know this is a really profound and huge question, but I feel like it's a really important one to sort of wrap our hearts and our souls around. What is the meaning of life? And I don't think I would ask this question to very many people. So I feel very okay asking you. And what is life about?
It's a big question.
It really is.
And I can only answer from my truth, as there's no way I can know the meaning of life.
Right.
I don't think any human will ever know the meaning of life.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the mental capacity or the language to ever understand fully, to ever understand God fully.
Mm-hmm.
But I truly believe that the meaning of your life is to be you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know it's so simple, but really truly, there is no one else that can be you. There's no one else who can be what you came to be, who can give what you came to give, who can be that exact image of God that is you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is your only reason for being here. That is to be that. And still what we do is we try to be everybody else.
Well said.
And I truly believe that is what causes so much of our suffering. That is why God all the time had to come and shake us and say, do you remember who you were supposed to be?
Yeah.
Right? And give us that little shake so it can all fall off again. And typically when we are on the other side of being in the dark place, first thing we do is to put it all back on. We want to return to how it was.
Right. It's so true.
Yeah. So I believe that our most difficult and most important task is to find the courage to allow ourselves to be who we are. That's it. And the spiritual journey is only a journey of unlearning everything that is not you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's so eloquent, how you said that. And I really believe that there's no other person. I mean, really, I don't think I would ask that question to many people. And it's a testament to, I think, how much work you've done in service to say that to you and to ask you that question. So we'll see if I ever feel called to ask that to anyone else, but your answer is so much in alignment with a reminder even to me what that is. And I think I have sort of this funny little moment with God. I'll share a little bit of a funny moment with God that I don't think I've ever shared, but I feel like before you sort of come down the chute and incarnate, for lack of a better, way to say that, I remember, I think this moment with God before I came, and God was like, you're going to forget me. I'm not sure if you should go. You're going to forget me, and I don't know if I want you to go. Actually, you stay with me. And I was like, oh no, I could never forget you. And the human comes into manifest and into incarnation with this beautiful gift of life, the gift and the miracle of it all. And sure enough, we forget.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like this profound simplicity of that truth is the only thing that I have ever really, truly understood in this life. And what it seems to me to do more than ever, and I think you just answered this so well, is to remember that you have forgotten that. And what that is to me is pure, divine, eternal love. And that is where you come from, and that is where you shall return. And that you can be in that space in every moment. And that's what I learned through my father's suicide. And it doesn't mean it's easy, because it is, in the horrendousness sometimes of life, it's also to see the contrast of its wholeness. So I really love how you shared that, and I will take that with me on my journey.
Really something about that is so remembering.
Yeah.
is all there is. And remember that no matter where you are in life, no matter how far you feel from God, no matter how difficult your days, love is always there.
Yeah.
God is always present. So to really truly understand that makes us able to connect with it again and again and again and again. It is always there.
Yeah.
It's always 100% fully and absolutely present. It's never absent, ever.
I love that. And it's so true. And how often we forget. I mean, I say this, I'm an ordained minister. The reality of that truth and admitting it. No masks, no covering at all. Like, remove them. And the truth is we forget. And that's a part of life. But at the same time, when you forget, the only thing to do is to remember. And it's a spiritual practice to remember. So I love how you've brought that in, and that's really how I see when I forget. I'm like, oh right, that. And I think the other part of it is, I remember God showed me so simply in my prayer and my meditations, is that really the heart are the gates to heaven, and you have to open them, and we close them, and then you have to open them, and it's that practice that I think. You've just so eloquently said, it's just that God is where you stand. God is where you are, always with you, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, good words, and there to love you. So the only thing to do is to love yourself from that perspective and move on.
And when you, the thing is that when you connect with the part of yourself that is God, when you truly connect with your soul, and you allow that part of you to grow and to get more space within you, then your all the, I don't know the English words, but everything that you have built that closed your heart. You can say just the closing of your heart gets the chance to just melt from the inside out, because I don't think that we can just open our hearts, because it is there, that wall is there for a reason. So at some point in our lives, something happened that made another part of us say, oh, we have to protect this sacred part.
Yes.
So instead of just ripping it open,
right.
or trying to get rid of it and just forcing it, getting in touch with God and filling yourself up with that love will melt the defenses from the inside and out, because you don't need them. Don't need them anymore when love is fully present within you. So that is the journey that I encourage when you are longing to open your heart, is to cultivate your connection with God, so you don't need the defenses, instead of forcing your beautiful heart to open before it's ready.
That's beautifully said. And I think that the process of that is such it's such an intimate space, and it really is. The sacred garden is within us, and we live from the inside out. So really, nourishing and taking care of your garden, and really honoring it from the core of your heart. And you can feel it. I mean, we feel everything in our chest. And I think it's interesting, even the English I find fascinating when you think of words, but chest, when I think of the chest, it is where the treasure is, right? So the treasure chest is, quite frankly, and it's so interesting how it's so protected anatomically, even in where it's located, and the way the spine is there to support with the ribs, and right in the center of our being is this beautiful core that we feel from. And we're an emotionally intelligent being, so I think just to remember that sacredness within you and to breathe into that is what you just spoke of so beautifully. Yeah. Anja. Okay. So I think one of the things that I had here, I had bookmarked a couple of things, but on page, I think you have the English version in front of you, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So we have on page 75, I love 75. And I thought I'd ask you to read that, and right into actually also page 77.
75 and 77.
Yes.
Okay. There will be a small break between the two.
Yes.
Okay. On dark days, when heaviness creeps in, when my eyes are closed to the beauty around me, when breathing becomes harder, I close my eyes and recall the feeling of being held, the presence of love surrounding me. And I am lifted into the remembrance of my strength, my light, my love, until I am finally able to hold any heaviness in the loving embrace of my soul.
Just take a breath into that. Beautiful. All right.
Okay. We'll take the next one.
Yes, please.
Beloved, let me show you all your dignity, your grace. From stardust you were brought to life to serve the human race. Beloved, let me show you just how powerful you are. Your inner light uncovered will outshine the brightest star. Beloved, let me show you how the stars will bow in awe when you arise again from dust, unvarnished, nude, and raw.
Ah, beautiful. And, just coming out of that too is that this, the way that that is so positioned in our conversation is, I think what I want to sort of say to everyone too is that we, as as small as we feel or as little as we feel, we are so important to it, to all that is, and this world in which we all share as brothers and sisters. So one of the things that I feel very guided to say right now is that we are so much more powerful than we realize. And so in this power and in this way, when we sort of nourish the inside of us and we sort of ground into this understanding, we can then expand out. And this is where the light is very interesting to me, because the light, once we sort of fill ourselves with that and understand that within our operating system, then we can reach and stretch it out into first maybe just the room that you live in, maybe just the house that you live in, and just sit with that for a while. There's nothing that you need to do beyond that. That's okay. And then the thing that it seems, once that's comfortable, then you can start expanding out, and more so in your community or in your family or wherever you feel you wish to sort of use this power that has been given to you, bestowed to you. And I think, Anja, I think just as we sort of carry on, from the darkness that we sort of were in at the beginning with God, then into this moment with God, what I wanted to do is share a little bit of how we met. And I think just touch on the story of the way that life is divinely organized. And I think this is for me great proof. I think, I've I don't need proof, but I feel those that might be watching this might really enjoy that part of this. So I'm just going to switch over to a slideshow that I've prepared, and I'm just going to start here. So bear with me for just 2 seconds here. All right. So in this slideshow, I've just put a couple of things down, and I thought it would just be a great way to start a conversation. Just, I think to carry on from where we've left off is perfect. And let's just see what happens here. So the Book of Solace, Love and Light for Dark Days, and it's by this beautiful friend of mine, Anja, right here. So I love this picture of you. I had to put it in. I just think that you radiate a light that I just truly honor, and I just love this photograph of you, so I put it in to begin with. I also love this beautiful photograph of you, and I think it so speaks to who you are and your willingness to share the inner landscape of you with the world, and I just want to honor you for that. And then this is your beautiful book cover, and I just wanted to ask you, how did this book cover come to be?
I had a very clear vision in my head of what I wanted, and I tried to express it to my the graphic designers working on the book in Denmark, and it failed miserably.
Which is often the case at first.
So I was so disheartened by the way the Danish book turned out. I was really not happy about that.
Okay.
So when I started working with this American publisher, I knew I had to be somehow clearer, and they had sent me a few suggestions, and it was way off. And I said, I really just want this, and then this was the first thing they come up with. It looked like that. Has been nothing changed from that, and it felt like a miracle to me, because I love this cover. It's just everything I want it to be. I think it's so beautiful. It has the simplicity and the beauty and the darkness and the light, and I just love it.
It's also so calm. in its nature, and I love the curve, and I love that it just naturally is this way. I also think it shows the growth process.
Mm.
So I think there's so much beauty in this that I just wanted to ask you, because I also know when you put something out into the world, and having done that a few times, it's so interesting because you're going to see this for the rest of your life, and it's very important that you feel good about it. So I celebrate that this is the cover, and it is so beautiful. I also wore blue to honor the cover of your book.
Oh, that's sweet.
Mm. So I thought I would just share a couple of pictures that just grabbed my attention, that just came to me naturally. So this was just a collage of things. One of the things that I love as a creator, a fellow creator of I think just service to the world product, let's call it, to the heart, the soul. I think it's so interesting how your heart and your soul can be put into something in manifest, like this book. And, I always say I give that over to God when that happens, but I know what it's like to receive a box of something that was once in your heart. And I just, as someone that's opened those boxes, you open them and it's sort of a moment where you're like, you're sort of, it's delightfully delicious, but it's also incredibly profoundly bizarre. So it's really a lovely thing. So when you opened your box, the first one, I just wanted to ask you how that felt.
I think there was a moment of just being terrified before I opened the book, or opened the box, because what if it didn't look anything
I
near
know.
what I hoped it would, or
Yeah.
so and then it was just this gratitude.
Right. Yes.
This book has a very special
Hmm.
is very special to me because it truly was born without, it felt like I had very, very little to do with it,
Right. Yes.
you know, and it has taught me so much
Hmm.
about surrender. It has taught me so much about listening to what moves and what wants to be done,
Yes.
um, because I never decided to write a book.
Hmm.
It was just birthed through me, and since it was birthed through me, it has just taken me on this incredible journey where it never ceases to amaze me.
Hmm.
And I think the most important part I have played in it has actually been to get out of the way.
Yes.
So when I published this, I did it without any plans. I don't have any strategy. I have no idea what I'm going to do about how to get it out to the world. I know that it's out there. The publisher made sure that it's
Yeah.
all around the English speaking world, all around the globe. But I have done nothing but just I sleep with it on my heart every night, and just connect with it, and um, and just uh, wait in gratitude for it to show me the way, as it has done so many times before, and to unfold. So I think opening the box, I just stepped into just yet another moment of just gratitude,
Hmm.
because this has been given, not just to me but through me.
Right. I totally get that. And I think, one of the things that was coming to my heart while you were just sharing that is just the power of words. Dr. Maya Angelou taught me when I was in my grief during my father's suicide that, the words, they get into the walls, they get into the carpets, they get into the upholstery, they get into our room, and then they get into us. And I think it's, very important to remind people that what Maya Angelou talked about, Dr. Maya Angelou talked about, was that, be mindful of the words you use. And I think your book uses only the good words. And I say this with great I think just, I'm going to say spiritual awareness, because I think that is so intentional and it's so divinely put together in that way, because it comes from such a pure place of what it means to be a human being, to be a soul and a human being all at once. So I just want to say, to open up your box of words that have power, it is evident that they will go out to the world, and they already have, from Denmark all the way to North America, and the way that works. And, I always remember her teaching of do right. It might not be profitable, it might not always gain you friendships, but it will give you a protection that bodyguards cannot be bought for. Love this, because it is so powerful to recognize that we must be mindful of the words we use. So I just thank you for using the good words. And I look forward to watching this beautiful book bloom around the world. And I can't wait to give it as gifts to people that I love, because it is, the small and mighty books, it seems to me, are powerful. A small book changed my life, which is really why I do what I do, by Dr. Deepak Chopra. So I think that your book is in the caliber of that. I'm going to say this, and in the future we can look back to this moment. But I do feel that way about it from my heart. So it's one of the ones to pay attention to for anyone watching this, and I suggest you look into it. All right, I had to put a picture of your beautiful husband, Sebastian, and I love this picture of you, and what a milestone for both of you to have this moment together.
It was really a beautiful day, and he did a speech where he said something that really, really touched me deeply, because he honored the one thing that has been the most difficult for him to tackle, being part of this crazy journey that I have gone through. And he said he really, really honored the lack of compromise that I lived.
I get that.
That there is no compromise. I don't have a choice. I have to do what I have to do, what God shows me to do, tells me to do.
And I want to just say to you what that is in translation is called a calling.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I totally.
And it has not been easy to be married to a woman with a calling.
Yeah, I get that. And I have so much, in many ways, it's a great sacrifice to those that we love at times. And also, it's a sacrifice to you as well. So I want to make sure that I honor you in that sacrifice as well, as Sebastian was doing. And just that no compromise, God has a plan. It's God's will here. So it's challenging when you get your will into it at times. And that's the interesting part of how God works. So I appreciate that from Sebastian. Yeah.
I have mainly one prayer. My own personal prayer is just, thy will be done. Absolutely. Not my will, but yours.
Amen to that. I get it completely. And I say amen. Hallelujah too. Human beings, yes. Okay, so moving along here, I had to put this in because, as someone, I think it's funny, Corey took this picture of me. He sort of made me do this, and it was one of those.
Oh, I love that.
I laughed. It's in our backyard in Canada, and it's just, it's just funny. And I know that we are both, quite frankly, in some ways, without using too many words to explain this, but we're both sort of ministers, I think, to people, and we serve the heart and the soul for God from a space without a church, really, so far at least. We sometimes use churches that exist, I know, but we hold this space together, and I thought it was beautiful, anyways.
I really want to see you in that outfit one day. It really looks like you. It suits you.
I do. We have to dress up together one day, and we'll do it just for fun. Yeah. So I had to put this beautiful picture in of Steiner, and this is really how we met. And I think it's important to acknowledge how people meet because there would not be this meeting without this person. And I think we need to do a better job in our humanity to remember those and hold the door for people as well. Steiner, do you say, is it Dittelsen? Like, I don't know.
Ditlevsen.
See, and this is my English, and the Scandinavian languages are not great for my tongue, but that's why I said you could say that one. But Steiner introduced us, and he's the founder of the ETTG, or the European Teachers Transformational Gathering. And we met in Spain because of Steiner and his work holding space for spiritual leadership in many ways. So I just thought I love this picture of him. This is the first time I was there, not the time that you were there. I think that was the one year. Were you there that year? I don't remember.
I have been there every year.
Okay,
I am a so-called founding
I
member.
couldn't remember. That's because you are. And I think this was a beautiful moment, I think, just for me, because I recognized him in this moment, and I felt him in this moment, which translated into the following year, which is really the year that I saw you properly. I think I didn't really, I don't know, I was in my own little scared fear probably of that first year, but this is the year that I met you. And I think I'm going to just I think you're right here, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I think you're right.
Yeah, and I'm somewhere over, this is me over here, and my husband Corey's right here. I just think everybody's so small, but I love this picture because this is what we experienced, and it was such a joy. So I thank Steiner for this beautiful gift that he's given all of us, and we will continue this on.
Yeah.
So thank you, Steiner.
And thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so I wanted to put this in here. I love this picture of you because it is one of, first of all, here's me and my big head. And then there's you, and
with a very lively face. Yeah. I'm very expressionate. What's called? How do you say that?
Well, you're full of expression, but this was one of those moments where I saw you, and it was a profound moment for me that was very, very intense. And I knew I recognized you in this moment. And I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I know that we will understand in time. But we very much united in our heart space somewhere in this moment, from me anyways. And I think, moving forward from Alicante, Spain, where this was, and I was sharing the stage really with you and that sort of space. And I know when I was saying, this is you, I believe, over here. Yes. I think, yes. So this was, this was everyone gathering, and I think this is when I was when I had finished singing for one of my events. So I just say that to you because this was such a beautiful moment, and I thank all of the people that came to the ETTG these years, and I look forward to sort of getting back together with everyone too. Yeah, and I loved this picture of us. This was sort of at the tail end of that, and I saw it and I was like, I have to put it in because we were all beaming inside. It's like spiritual family coming together, and we had to do it in Spain. So the next picture, just to put some light on this too, is Trudy Dibbendal and her beautiful conference in Oslo, Norway. And what's so funny about this moment, I put this picture in just to sort of create the line and lineage. This was after ETTG, and I didn't know you were coming. I don't know how I did not know this, but I did not know. So I flew to Oslo, and when I saw you, as you know, and we've shared the story a few times, but I remember just like, I didn't know you were coming. So it was like this big joy rising moment. And you came in from California, having been with Michael Beckwith, and you were just beaming with light. And it was I think I saw you with a whole other light that I didn't even know I already knew again. And you were the light. And you came in with a radiance that just has stayed with me ever since. And I thank Trudy. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just wanted that was such an interesting and incredibly beautiful moment to me because, we met in Spain, and I thought, wow, what a beautiful, beautiful guy, beautiful husband. But we never got to speak
Yeah.
each other. So I didn't realize the connection at that point.
Mm.
Then you showed up in Norway. I was standing in the kitchen.
I remember.
The door opened and you and Corey came in. And I felt like screaming with
You
joy.
too.
It was like, why am I having this reaction to these people that I hardly know? But I was so overjoyed. I couldn't be in my own body.
I totally get it. I wanted to scream. I think we yelped.
We did.
Yeah, it was a really beautiful
Just
moment.
a moment of such a deep recognition. It was like you were my long, long lost, close brother that I just hadn't seen for decades.
Yeah.
And there you suddenly were. That was how it felt.
I know, it's funny, right? I totally get it. And I this is one of the reasons why I wanted to put the picture in too, is just to recall that moment. So it just is, it's so interesting with energy, but you remember it, right? You remember the light.
So thank you to Trudy.
Oh, thank you to Trudy. Yes, absolutely. And just for anyone that doesn't know, she's an incredible Olympian, an Olympic medalist from Norway, a cross-country skier, and a world champion many times over. So she's an incredible gift to all of us. Okay, so I've wanted to put this in because this is really how I feel about you. And I made this slide, I think, thinking of you, actually. So stay close to people who feel like sunshine. And you are the sunshine. So it's very appropriate with your book, I think, just to remember that if anyone needs some sunshine, this is a book to definitely get, because it is the sunshine in sometimes dark days. So I really just wanted to say that with this slide.
That is the sweetest thing that anyone ever said to me. Thank you.
It's very true. You are.
I would love to be the sunshine.
Well, you are to me. And I think to many that will be knocking on your door very soon as this book naturally goes out to the world. So I put this in just because I really wanted to just replicate, I think, just that God is always with us. And I think the sun is a great reminder that the light is always with us. Even if there's clouds above us, the light, I love when you're in a plane and you break through the clouds and it's always sunny above the clouds. So that sun's always there, but we just have to remember it. And I think just that's what your work does. So I just wanted to put a representation in after that sunlight picture, because we are also the sunlight. So we just have to remember this, even if we forget it.
Exactly.
And then the other thing, so Anja, this is actually the first time I was in Denmark, and I remember having this day with you, with Corey, my husband, who's in this picture with Anja, and I wanted to just honor this day because you had suggested this. We came from Copenhagen, and we took the train out to your area where you had set this up. And it's this beautiful, remind me the name of this gallery.
Louisiana.
So we had this beautiful sort of day walking this beautiful gallery, and I just, it's like I was observing my life that I was living, that I was sort of shocked was my life. And I was with you, and I was watching you and Corey thinking, like, this is so surreal and so beautiful because of your sunlight from the time that we were in Oslo with you. And I remember taking this photograph, and it's one of my favorite photographs of both of you. And it just speaks to just to the whole experience of, I think, your beauty. And I want to ask you, do you remember the conversation that we had there about where you were at? And you hadn't really published your book yet. I don't think your Danish book was out yet either, if I remember correctly.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Oh, was it? Oh, it was, but I hadn't really, made an effort with it. And then COVID came right after this.
Right.
And then I thought, maybe I should make people aware that I have a book that gives solace and comfort. And then it just blew up.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes. But I remember speaking to, I think we had lunch, and I remember I could, I have this ability, and I'm sure you do, is I have visions. But I had a vision in this moment at this museum about what was to come for you. And the challenging part of visions is you're not sure how your part is to play this role. So I think it's funny on the other side of this coin to get to this moment with your book in English now, and we're on the other side of something fantastic. And that vision that I had, I wanted to support you in whatever way I thought I could at the time. But I recognize today is really me supporting you on the other side of that this way. And it's funny how you have these visions or these understandings, and it takes however long it takes to get here. And yeah.
Wow.
So
That's beautiful. I didn't know that you had that vision.
yes, I've had many with you. Yeah, I have a feeling
But
that
we have a lot to do.
yes,
We have
we
a lot
do.
to do.
Yes. So that being said, I love this picture. And, this is, you had just mentioned it, but then the pandemic came. And I say this because I think that we've all had these 3 last years now to really, I think, be in some version of some reflection. I recognize this contemplation and this reflection space has been profound. And I believe that in many ways, God's will shall be done, just to remember. And that as we sort of come out of this, it's a time for healing and coming together again. But the first person that has to heal is yourself. The pandemic was very hard for me. I will say this. It's probably the second depression I've had in my life after my father's suicide. But I will say, the fool that I am, I worry, I have fears. And then what's so funny about God is God's like, oh, calm down, little one. so, so I really just wanted to put this in because I think we're blooming the new world now in a new way. And I want to just sort of give light to the next time I saw Anja. And I was invited to share the stage with Dr. Bruce Lipton. And Anja and I had this beautiful experience of that trip just this past September in 2022 when we were together in physical ways that last time. So this is why I came to Denmark. And I just wanted to put in that we were blessed to be on your gorgeous shared beach. And I just love this picture of all of us. So this was a beautiful moment.
That was a beautiful day. It
Yeah.
was just wonderful to connect with you again and to just have time to just sit and be in that space. And we had a long day and a long evening and a night to be together, and it was just wonderful.
It was magic. And I think just after being being so isolated for so long, it was almost like, it was literally being in the sun again, but a whole new sun. And it was almost like heaven on earth, if I could, say that. And I think this is the times that we're living in, is that our heart and our soul is capable of creating that space of light with others. And I felt that so clearly. And your beautiful meal that you had made that day was, I think it's probably one of my most treasured memories of many in that trip, but I will always cherish and treasure these moments that I had with you. And I think you can tell on our faces, we were just like, yeah, like just
But there is just something there's just something you can never reach on your own. There are levels. Actually, I don't know, this is just coming to me now. I haven't thought about what it is that I'm saying.
Yes.
But it's like there are levels of being in the presence of God that you can actually not reach by yourself.
Yes.
We really need to be in the presence of other human beings. And I speak as someone who has had huge experiences of being in the presence of God. But there is something about the way God is present when we are with people that reminds us of who we are. That is just something else.
Yeah, and I think while you were saying that too, is you so powerfully said that earlier when the meaning of life is to be you. And I think you hold that space because you allow people to be who they are, whatever that is. Even if you're in pain, or even if you're suffering, even if you're angry, upset, mad, hostile, whatever, you hold that space. And that's really quite remarkable. So I love how you just said that, because you allow people to just be in the sunlight, no judgments. Yeah. So I thank you, and your smile, and look at your smile. And Sebastian's taking the picture, so it was just, we were all just like, yes. Such a great memory. So I wanted to just share this because I remember this moment, and I thought I would bring this today, but this beautiful crystal, I also have one of these. And I just want to speak to this for 1 second with Anja, but I know for me, this drop for me is how I see God coming into us if we ask God to come into us. And it's drop by drop by drop that fills the chalice of our heart. This is how I know, for me, I can speak personally for me, this is how I bring God into me, as I let God's drops come into me with great grace. And I just thought it was so profound that you had the same crystal. And I just think, I had to put it in because I had to honor God that way. Yeah.
And it was in the guest room where you were sleeping, right?
It was. And I remember seeing it, and I wanted to scream again. Yeah. Yeah. So it was beautiful, and thank you. And I just think more than anything, the Danish way has such a profound way for me. And I just, the more I recognize my family, I've been a Dane before, or maybe connected, I don't know, but I have a huge affinity to all of you. And I thought I put this into, it's just the Lord himself goes before you. He will never leave you. Do not be afraid, and do not be discouraged. We can easily be discouraged here on this planet. And I think more than anything, we're here together to support that we're all in this together, and that God has walked every day before you so you can be free. And to remember that as we sort of move into the future.
That's a good reminder.
Yeah. So I also wanted to, Anja, just put this in because I think what, really with your book, and this is really what I want to talk to, is that I recognize that what Louise Hay taught me a long time ago, and I think she's taught the world, is that her quote here is just, life is really very simple. What you put out comes back to you. So I'm really interested in having a conversation in the future. So I'm going to sort of mark this moment where we can share some stories about what stories come because of what you've offered the world. And I know, to be very frank, what you're seeking is also seeking you. And I think what you give, you receive as a natural part of the golden rule. And I think it's very interesting in the future. And I want to ask you, while we're in this moment, from the Danish side, what stories have sort of started to bubble up to you from your book so far?
The main thing that comes to mind is actually I received a testimonial from Australia.
Wow.
And it was a testimonial that had been written on Amazon's Australian page.
Wow.
By a woman that I don't know, and it was the most incredible testimonial. Wow. And how she, wished that this book would be in every hospital and every hotel and every school and every,
Yeah.
So that really, really moved me, that someone on the complete other side of the earth had read my book, and she understood it. Mm-hmm. Because I can, when I take it and look into look at it, it can seem overwhelming because it's so intense. It's like bouillon.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
It's like so condensed, or so I have been scared that people would not recognize it for what it is, because it was just so many words on so little space, so just experiencing that someone felt it and felt this is an energy carrier more than,
Yes.
words are just an excuse. It really is. The words are just an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a book full of love.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. And she felt that, and that just blows my mind and moves my heart.
One of the things that I can relate to is that, one of my favorite moments on any level is that what I recognize when you give your heart and when you give your service through God's love, one of the things that you do is you remind people of the connection to that. So I'm really interested in the stories that actually come your way. And one of the suggestions I would like to actually make to you, which I wish I had done long ago too, is to actually keep track of some of them. To keep a diary of it, because I think that there's stories and there's teachings that can come from that will help actually others. So maybe just, I don't know if you have a diary already for this, but if you don't, it's something that I think would be very powerful to have a journal about some of the things that come your way as a result, because I think that there are many people that would actually benefit from those messages. Yeah.
Yeah, I will take that to heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that we've put a nice, beautiful container together, I think, just to honor your work and your love. And, more than anything, I'm just excited, and I'm so in celebration of what you're doing. I know, tell me a little bit about, before we end this, but is there anything that you're doing in the next little space to come that you would like to highlight? I know that you do workshops and you do other things. Is there anything coming up for you?
Um, well, mainly in Danish.
Yeah, okay.
So,
So,
so the next big thing that will happen in English is actually I will be doing an online course with the Shift Network
okay, great.
this fall, and so I'm looking very much forward to that, and to make what I have to give
Mhm.
accessible for more people, and for all the people who speak English and not Danish. Oh, and then I have actually just restored. I used to do every Sunday a love service
Great.
on Facebook.
Mhm.
And I stopped that about a year ago, but I am putting it back to life. It will be every first Sunday
Okay,
of every month, once a month, first Sunday at 10 o'clock my time, CET.
that's
Uh,
beautiful. Okay.
I will be giving a love service, which is just, I'm going live,
Mhm.
and we will just sit and we will meditate together, and we will look into each other's eyes, and we will connect with love, and we will, invite love to expand our capacity to be love.
Mhm.
So that is, I'm looking so much forward to reconnecting with all the people that used to be part of this.
Yeah.
So this will be in English, and it's just on my Facebook page. So if you just search for my name, you can join in. It's free, and just, yeah.
What I'll do is I'll put the description with the links to all of your work beneath this, so you'll see that. And I'm really just excited about what will come from the space that you hold. And who doesn't want to be around sunshine? So,
That's so.
so I thank you so very much. And most importantly, I think this really is a to be continued moment. And I look forward to sort of being on the other side of this coin again to see what other beautiful things come from this space that you're holding and creating and co-creating in now. So I thank you so very much.
You, and thank you so much for creating this space and giving your time and your dedication to be such a light and such a support and such you have the biggest heart on this planet, you know this.
I think you might, but
well,
I will receive it.
I think it's not a competition.
Well, I thank you.
Okay.
And everyone that's watching, thank you for taking time with both Anja and I. And, you know, we're all in this beautiful community together. We share this beautiful planet together, and we are brothers and sisters. And together with our love, we all shine the brightest light. So I thank you, and we'll talk to you soon, everybody.